All right, greetings from the Dark Continent. Conscious Caracal here, or Adams van Sail, here to shine a light on the goings on down south, here at the southern tip of Africa. Welcome to 2025, one quarter into the 21st century officially. Thank you very much for everyone's patience. Sorry, it's the usual. The power is off, so I had to figure out some way to get some light here. Also, it's not as things don't go as smooth the setup when you don't have power. It's due to cable theft, the usual story here at the southern tip of Africa. At least it gives my streams that element of deep authenticity when it comes to the little elements that you see now and again um, playing out when it comes to my streams. You've seen on the show live how the power goes off multiple times. I've also been a guest on other people's channels when my power went off. And yeah, that's where I'm, the situation that I find myself in once again. I don't think I'm going to be able to, let's just see here. I'm using my phone as a light, but that'll have to do. How's everyone doing? Welcome back to Stream of Consciousness. I'm looking forward to just having a informal discussion as always, as I always start the year with this type of discussion stream where I'm just going over some of the themes that I think are going to play a large role and are going to be defining in 2025 or whatever year lies ahead. That's usually what I do with these intro episodes on my channel. This year, you can already guess the title, or you can already guess the theme by the title. The theme that I have in mind is adapt or die. Now, that might sound a bit harsh, but it's the reality. It's the truth. So let's see who's already here. Petra Meiberg, goeienaand. Alison, good evening. Lowbrow, watching live. It's my lucky day. Yeah, you've missed some, tuned in late to some streams the past couple of times. I'm glad you could make it live. Again, apologies for the late start. Things are third world factors outside of my control. Sideline opinions, best wishes from the best country in the world. Pity about some bad apple sharing it with us. And then also Zach Dalden Ekblom asks, do you remember Harold Macmillan's Winds of Change speech? Now, I don't remember it. I wasn't alive for it, but I am aware of it, the contents of that speech. Let's see here. Mark Mayberg says, hi all. And Tricky Woo waves to everyone. Stephanie says, hello everyone, Happy New Year. Another first world power shortage. Crystal Smith says not. All right, let's get into some of the themes that I wanted to discuss. So firstly, let's see, am I picking up my sound correctly? I think it's positioned correctly. Let me know if there's any sound issues. As I said, I was in a bit of a rush now, so to get started, I don't want to keep you waiting on a weekday evening. So let me know if my sound is a bit low or a bit high. I'll adjust accordingly. All right. For the first episode of 2025, the themes that I want to discuss, the themes, ideas, and trends. The first theme or trend that I'm seeing happen, excuse me, is that there's definitely a paradigm shift occurring all across the Western world. And what do I mean by a paradigm shift? Well, that is a significant disturbance in the zeitgeist, in the usual pattern of things, in the status quo. It is a time of disruption. It is a time of transition. It is a time of shifting political alliances, power shifting of the power balance, or as we say here in South Africa, the balance of forces. The balance of forces is definitely changing and shifting in the Western world and in South Africa as well. And I think the theme that I'm picking up on in regards to this paradigm shift is that we are entering a time where those who are able to effectively adapt to these disruptive changes that I've described will come out on the other side stronger and more resilient, while those who fail to adjust their sails to the changing wind will be lost at sea. So when it comes to particularly this idea of a paradigm shift, it's usually a chaotic time, but it's also a time of great opportunity. Last year, my theme was for 2024. I said my theme, I think, was perseverance, that you have to persevere. I predicted that 2024 was going to be a chaotic year. Not necessarily a paradigm shift as we're seeing now, but the laying the foundations for it. Let's see. Lowbrow says, "Kyk daai pragtige snor, would love a Vrystaat traffic cop, would make a Vrystaat traffic cop proud." En Christoph Smith says gaan 'n bietjie moeilik wees om propaganda te vervaardig in Hollywood op die oomblik. Yes, it's referencing the fires that we're seeing there. Sideline opinion says sound is 4 out of 5. Mark Mayberg says sound is 5 out of 5. So it seems like sound quality really is in the ears of the listener. I'm looking for a fancy way to say the listener, as you would say, beholder instead of the looker. All right. So last year, my theme was perseverance. This year, my theme is adapt or die. And this is something that will be relevant to in South Africa, but also to the United States, to Europe, to the wider Western world as well. So let's see here, just getting my notes in order. Also, if you have any questions, particularly around the theme of 2025, what is lying ahead? I'm not going to make a lot of predictions, like hard predictions, rather more, if I'm making predictions, I will be talking more about more trends and themes that might come to the fore. I'm not going to give you, I'm not going to try and pretend like I know exactly what's going to happen this year. But if you have any questions regarding 2025, feel free to put them there in the comments. I will get to as many of them as I can. So in a time of a paradigm shift, when we see as one of the commenters pointed out, the winds of change, the winds of change blowing, this is a time where agility and resilience will be very important. So agility in the sense that you will have to be able to adapt very quickly and swiftly sometimes to a lot of the changes that will be happening thick and fast, but also then resilience, seeing as a lot of these changes might actually be quite challenging in the changing environment. And this was actually the theme. So those of you that are long-time subscribers to my channel will know every year I have like a annual discussion on my channel with my friend, the economist Russell Lamberti of Sakeliga, and we talk about some of the lessons we've learned in the year past, and then also what will be necessary for the year ahead. And last year, 2024, we talked about the idea of the men of action, and that the future belongs to the men of action and to the builders. Now, just to rewind a bit, if you want to listen to that full conversation that I had with Russell, you can find that on my YouTube channel. It's one of the more recent ones. You'll find it under videos. You'll see there the thumbnail of me and Russell sitting there in the thumbnail. And one of the theme that came to the fore there was that the future belongs to the builders and the men of action. Now, let's rewind a bit to what made us come to this conclusion. We were retrospectively looking at the decade between roughly about 2015 and 2025. And what were some of the lessons that came to the fore within that decade? Now, I chose that decade specifically because that was the previous paradigm, roughly, the previous, like almost historical chapter of the 21st century, the 2010s, but particularly between 2015 and 2025. That decade is, it's almost like the Trump era, if you want to give it a little label. But it's what is meant by a paradigm is particularly almost like these little historical chapters where it's marked by almost like a thread of ideas and themes and patterns that all coincide. And I think the 2010, between particularly 2015 and 2025, we saw the election of Donald Trump as almost like a backlash against the status quo of decades of leaders in the United States, pretty much enacting the same type of policy, the uniparty policy. And Donald Trump was a serious disruption to that trend. And then also within that decade, we saw the rise of social media censorship, something that is now scaled back a little bit in 2025, but it's not gone. I don't think we're ever going to return to pre-2015 internet, but we are definitely now in a place where we have more freedom of speech on the internet than we had, for example, in 2021 or 2022. Something else that we see during roughly that decade that I'm referring to is the rise of woke. Now, I really don't like that term. It's a slang term. It doesn't, you don't feel like you're having a serious discussion about politics and philosophy if you use words like woke. it just it just doesn't work. But for lack of a better term, it's during that time where you also see this rise of pretty much radical left-wing progressivism or radical left-wing progressivism. Everything from LGBT extremism to Black Lives Matter to the whole therapeutic state idea of your entire existence needs to be bubble wrapped, whether that be your physical safety, emotional safety, psychological safety. The state needs to be the custodian of all of that. And then at the same time, during that, you also see the rise and then eventually the fall of I don't think it's much a real world movement, rather the online movement of the libertarian ideology gets this. It grows like a plant, grows very fast, blossoms online, and then it just like withers away. A lot of I don't know a lot of people anymore that people that were considered themselves maybe in 2015 a libertarian or a classical liberal today are not as comfortable with those terms anymore. Seeing as I think COVID-19, another the COVID-19 and the associated lockdowns, another particularly prominent uh, part of the puzzle of this 2015 to 2025 paradigm, this chapter. Um, the COVID-19 pandemic and the associated lockdowns pretty much obliterated a lot of the ideas that libertarians had been pushing for a long while, but more particularly in the world of reality. Not that a lot of these ideas aren't very romantic on paper, but then when push came to shove, when the opportunity came to actually stand up for freedom, a lot of these libertarians and classical liberals just stood back and said, "Actually, no, we actually are quite afraid. This is an exception. This is actually quite serious. So there might actually be justifiable to not have all these freedoms at this time during this emergency." So I think that was a big test that was flunked by the libertarians and the classical liberals, pretty much disappointing many people and then leaving a lot of people looking for an alternative. Now, I myself am not a overly ideological person. I don't really. I try to refrain from attaching myself to a particular ideology. It just comes with so many other uh, not baggage, but other assumptions and associated ideas that if you tie yourself to a particular ideology, then all these other ideas, then you have to believe this as well, and this and this and this. I'd rather look at the world in terms of what works and what doesn't. I mean, maybe that's just the circumstances of South Africa that brings that type of idea to the fore. I think maybe conservative would be the best label, but I don't really consider conservatism an ideology. It's almost like an anti-ideological idea. It's not ideology is a particular set of ideas that has a utopian vision of how the world should be and a recipe for how to create that said utopia. whether that ideology be classical liberalism, communism, fascism, whatever. Conservatism doesn't really operate in that way. Conservatism doesn't really have the same, it doesn't function in the same way as an ideology. But yeah, that's the other thing. I had a fantastic discussion with man. I'm having a little blank here with at Radical Benjamin from IM 1776, and we had a discussion particularly on also a little bit of a retrospective, a retrospective on the classical liberals and libertarians of the 2010s and what went wrong, and with the intellectual dark web, the IDW, particularly. And Benjamin Roberts also wrote a fantastic piece about that theme. But anyway, I've went on a little bit of a tangent there with the ideological points. To get back to my central point, the 2015 to 2025 period was in some way an ideas a crucible for many ideas. They were tested, and I think 2025 will be again another great test for many of the ideas and ideologies out there, but less of a gladiatorial challenge like gladiatorial combat battle of ideas, and rather more an idea mass extinction event where many ideas just will not be able to survive if they can't produce the goods. And why do I say that? I say that because during times of great change, during disruptive times, a paradigm shift, people are generally looking for new alternative solutions to the problems that they face. These types of periods are very clearly marked by distrust or even a moving away from a rejection of the status quo and old ideas. That whole idea of if this uh, if this idea or ideology brought you to this point, this bad situation, then what use was that idea in the first place if it just produces these bad results? And that's why I say 2025 is definitely going to be a year where those who are able to adapt to the change and who are able to produce the goods, and the goods in this sense will be to produce the change that people want to see, or the outcomes and effective solutions that people want to see in the real world, not just online or in the world of rhetoric, those will be the people that rise to the top during this time, the people that will rise to leadership positions, the people that will rise to prominence within intellectual circles and in politics and society overall. Then also, I wanted to talk about particularly the United States, but then also South Africa. So, of course, the end of the previous paradigm, the 2015 to 2025 era or chapter, is the US election where Donald Trump beats very emphatically Kamala Harris and emerges victorious. But from a South African and particularly an Afrikaner perspective, there wasn't really a clear outcome that was exclusively the outcome that is exclusively positive for Afrikaners in that election and exclusively negative. And I'll explain why. So, of course, the obvious one is if Donald Trump victory would mean that organizations like AfriForum and the Solidarity Movement have a lot of contacts within the Trump administration. We would have a much more sympathetic ear to the issues that we care about from the Trump administration. We would know many people and have them as contacts within the Trump administration as well. I mean, my Solidarity Movement colleague, Jaco Kleinhans, had already, just after the Donald Trump victory, He was on my channel to discuss some of the implications of a Trump victory for Afrikaners and South Africans and South Africa, and you can find that on my channel, that discussion. And in that discussion, he announced that he had spoken to Donald Trump's son recently about farm murders, Afrikaners, South Africa, and more. So that's the obvious positive side to a Trump victory. The positives that would have come from or the negative of a Trump victory is the fact that it kind of lulls Americans back into this false sense that elections are the be all and end all in regards to bringing about change. So now you will see up until, I mean, the period between 2020 and 2024, the period where the Biden administration, with all its disasters, um, that period of time, you saw a lot of people in America actually starting to think about alternative ways to bring about change, not a complete rejection of voting, so not apathy in regards to telling people to not go vote, but rather to do other things as well to bring about change, which was a very positive mindset shift that was happening, at least from an Afrikaner perspective, because that's what happened. That was the Afrikaner mindset shift that happened over the past few decades, where as a cultural minority, you kind of realize that the ballot box can't be your exclusive vehicle towards change, especially not in a country like South Africa, where uh, you can very clearly see that people vote according to their race, their ethnicity, their culture, their language, their religion to some extent. Um, and I say some extent there because the best example would be, for example, the Muslim population in South Africa voting for a particular party one or two particular parties. Identity-based voting in South Africa came to the fore very clearly in the 2024 election. The two biggest winners in the 2024 election in regards to relative growth was definitely the MK party, which is a Zulu nationalist party, but not a traditionalist, not with the traditional Zulu base, as you see with, for example, the Inkatha Freedom Party, the IFP, which is more the traditional Zulu nationalist base. The MK party is more of the secular modernist version of cultural nationalism among Zulus. So it almost comes into clash with the traditionalists and the monarchists within the Zulu population. But anyway, still Zulu identity is at the very core of the MK party and at the core of the surge in the polls or surge in the election. And then also the Patriotic Alliance, which very clearly has a colored identity to it. The South African ethnic group, the Coloureds, voted disproportionately for the Patriotic Alliance under the leadership of Gayton McKenzie, who in his rhetoric did not beat around the bush that he wanted to give a voice to the colored population in South Africa, another minority group. Anyway, so what I was saying about that's the negative side of a Trump victory for Afrikaners in particular is the fact that what comes out of it is that Americans they now will probably regress back into this type of security around elections and everything is fine. You already see some people, or actually a lot of people in America, tweet things or post or write things like Western civilization is saved. I mean, Elon Musk himself posted the other day that Donald Trump's victory this election was the saved Western civilization. Well, I like Elon, nothing against Elon, but that's absolutely not true. You can't save a civilization with a 4-year presidential term. That's just that's not how it works. Western civilization is not destroyed or saved by a single election. It just buys you 4 years to do something positive and to stop the rot, and maybe start building towards saving Western civilization. Doesn't mean that election does not play a valuable role in that higher ideal. Dagbreker says, goeienaand Erns en klets kolom. Ek hou van daai ene. Let's see here. Vitlaus. Also, he also tweeted that the woke has been deleted. Yeah, that's what people said about political correctness in the early 2000s as well. So I don't think the woke is being put away. I don't think the woke has been deleted. I think it's just doing a tactical retreat. I think it's going to still be with us for a long time. Yeah. Favorite says coloreds are not a minority. They're the third largest group. I think 9 million coloreds, but that's the definition of a minority. A minority group is a group that is not the majority. 9 million out of 60 million total population is a minority. That's the definition of an ethnic minority. So yeah, just like the South Africa is actually as a country, South Africa is a collection of minorities. There isn't really a majority ethnic group in South Africa. The Zulus aren't a majority. The Xhosas aren't a majority. The there's no ethnic majority in South Africa. There's a racial majority in South Africa, but that racial majority is not ethnically or culturally united. I see more people are dropping in. Good evening. Good evening. Wow, now it's getting busy. Good evening, JC. Lowbrow says the gains by MK and PA show once again that multiculturalism and mass democracy only results in patronage politics. Well, it shows that people organize according to identity, that identity is not dead. It's actually one of the key drivers behind human politics and organization. It's that quote that I constantly, almost to the frustration of my audience, keep repeating in all my writing and all my streams of Samuel Huntington, who said when the Soviet Union collapsed, he said that the post-Cold War world will be defined by one question: who are we? The people that can answer that question will win, and people who can't answer that question will lose. Gavin says, "Hi, all, Happy New Year, Conscious Caracal. Happy New Year, Gavin." Byron says, "Hello from New York." Hello, Byron. Thank you very much for tuning in all the way from that side of the ocean. All right. So just to conclude that point, so there's a negative and a positive side to a Trump victory for Afrikaners particularly. And that's the fact that, especially for AfriForum and the Solidarity Movement, we are actually pioneering these new alternative ways to bring about change, which I think will inevitably be the ways in which the Western civilization is saved, is organization on firstly save your community, then you save your town, then you save your region, and then you save your country or your nation, but or your people. And when it comes to, I was just distracted by the neighbor's generator going on again. As I said earlier, for those who missed it, yeah, my power's off. Classic third world story. You know the tale. So yeah, there's just it's just part and parcel living in Africa. So yeah, when it comes to the negative and the positive of a Trump victory, if you had to ask me what would I want to happen in the 2024 election, I of course would have wanted a Trump victory. I think that's good for America. I think it will stabilize America. South Africa in general is incredibly dependent on America, trade-wise, economic-wise. On the Western world, South Africa is very dependent. People have this false idea that we are fully integrated into the BRICS countries. So that's not true. Yeah, China is a big trading partner of South Africa, but not near when it comes to the other countries in BRICS. It doesn't even compare. Jaco Kleinhans, for example, mentioned this in our chat when we were talking about the implications of a Trump victory for Afrikaners and South Africa. He mentioned, for example, a country like Iran, that South Africa, if you look at our rhetoric from our political leaders, you'd say we have this very close relationship with Iran economically, but we actually don't. We have I think Yaku said we trade more with the country of Lesotho than we do with a country like Iran. So that's just an example. Even though, like I said, it's not a BRICS country. Um, Gavin says 31 years later, still no power, but they claim to fix load shedding. Well, load shedding is quote unquote fixed. I'm old enough to remember when load shedding was fixed many times over the 17-year period, or now 18-year period that it has existed. Load shedding or rolling blackouts has been fixed many times over the years, only to come back. So I'm not celebrating yet. This is not load shedding that's causing my power outage. It's copper cable theft, rather, that's causing it. All right. There was a question here. If you hear a little a little cat making sounds here, we got a little kitten recently, so he's very talkative and he's listening, hearing me talk, so now he wants to talk along. Where was I? Oh yes. So the other thing that I think is also important to get to that point of, as Musk said, that Western civilization is apparently now saved by 4 years of Donald Trump. The big question then comes to the fore. Well, what comes after? You save a civilization through, you destroy a civilization through sustained attack and acid and deconstruction. The logic then goes, it will take even longer to rebuild a civilization that's already been eaten by the acid of just modernity, liberalism, progressivism, leftism, wokeism. And you're not going to save it in just 4 years or with one election. It's going to have to be saved from the ground up, from a grassroots level. And the question then becomes, well, all right, if you want to have a sustained strategy for saving Western civilization, or let's say saving the United States from the office of the president, you have to start thinking now, well, who's going to be the successor to Donald Trump in 4 years? That's a very important question. Another important question is actually one that me and my colleague Arends Roots, when we were at NatCon earlier this year, or earlier last year, I still haven't switched over to 2025. My mind is still in 2024. When we were at NatCon, we listened to many fantastic speeches. It was a fantastic experience. If you're curious about my thoughts on NatCon and what we did there, also did a stream on this channel. If you missed it, go check it out. It was a very good experience and an opportunity. But one of the themes, and I mentioned this to Arends while we were there at the end of NatCon, or constantly throughout NatCon, I told Arends, listening to all these speeches, they're fantastic, they're really good, they are insightful. The speakers are genuinely on top of it when it comes to the issues plaguing their nations. But there's one question that everyone is kind of like dancing around, shying away from. And I told Arends that question is, what is an American? And we discussed this idea again. We went to the I think it's the National Art Museum in New York, and there as well there was all these exhibits on American culture and American society, and they didn't really give you an idea of what an American is. That have you believe that an American is Hollywood and rap music and a little bit of football, maybe some Martin Luther King sprinkled in there, the civil rights movement sprinkled in there. But when it comes to particularly that question of what is an American, it actually is just a branch of Huntington's question that I keep referencing from the 90s, where he said, who are we? The defining question of the 21st century is going to be, who are we? And a version of that is, what is an American? And I mean, that was at NatCon earlier in 2024 when me and Arends had that conversation. And then at the end of 2024, that question explodes like an atomic bomb on social media and in the American discourse around H-1B immigration visas. Again, what is an American? And what is America? Is America a economic zone? Is America a global upliftment program? Is America a welfare machine for humanity? Is America just the global policeman? Is America Hollywood? Is America Silicon Valley? What is America? So I'm very glad that my my observation was so prescient. Um, that that question of what is an American, and it's not been. It's the discourse is still ongoing. The debate has not been settled, and I, as a South African, as an Afrikaner, can't really tell you what an. I mean, I can give you my answer, but it will be incomparable to the type of analysis or answer that an actual American will be able to give. But that's a question that I think is going to come up again and again and again. It's a question that demands an answer, and Americans are going to have to grapple with it. All right. Let's see, what else have I got here in my notes? Let's move on to South Africa. South Africa in 2025. So a theme that a lot of you have definitely seen in my streams and in my writing is Professor Koos Malan's idea of the desert of disorder, which means that his prediction is that South Africa and many other countries in the world will increasingly become deserts of disorder. And within these deserts of disorder, we will find oases of order. And in South Africa is a good example, where as crime worsens, you get neighborhood watches, you get secure neighborhoods within a chaotic country or a crime-ridden country. You get communities like Urania. Urania is the perfect example of an oasis of order in a desert of disorder. The communities that AfriForum are securing are becoming oases of order within that, again, desert of disorder. And that's AfriForum's mission in 2025 as well. We are very, very acutely aware of the fact that we have to build faster. We have to build faster than the infrastructure and country around us is worsening or collapsing. We have had many successes, and we can only build as fast as our resources and our means allow. So a lot of people have fantastic ideas for AfriForum, like you just have to do this, you just have to do this, you just have to build this. Now, I appreciate the suggestions. Don't get me wrong. Don't interpret what I'm saying as mocking those types of people. But I have a little bit of a chuckle because most, if not all, of those ideas are on our radar. We have discussed it within AfriForum or the Solidarity Movement, but most of them are either not practical or outside of our means at the moment. A good example would be a lot of people say we should build a university campus in Urania. Well, that's just not possible at this time. The whole idea of Urania is using labor within the small town. I don't think Urania has the labor capacity to build a university campus at the moment, not at the scale of academia campus that we are starting to build this year. But there would also the funds to build that university campus over there would also we scarcely have enough to build it here in Pretoria. So that's just an example. But at the same time, we do, as the Solidarity Movement, invest a lot of money into educational institutions in Urania. The best example of that would be Bokarua Opleiding. Joost Strydom, the head of the Urania movement, mentioned recently that there's now a record number of students in Urania. And a large contributor to that is the Solidarity Movement's project there, the Bokarua Opleiding. Bokarua, what's it in English? Man, did my English really run out just now? Training. Bokarua Training Center there. So we are investing heavily in tertiary education and training facilities there in Orania as well. But yeah, AfriForum is definitely going to still use our formula of fight and build, veg en bou. Fight in the sense of court cases and activism and pushing the zeitgeist away from destructive ideas towards more productive ideas, and fighting for our right to exist here in South Africa as Afrikaners, fighting for our language rights, and for to live out our culture, our language, and our religion here at the southern tip of Africa. But then also building, and we're going to be accelerating our building projects. But we're having major successes. It takes time. These things, to do something right, you have to do it slowly, properly, patiently. If you rush something, it usually is not done properly. If you're going to do something, you better do it properly, especially when it's about existential things like your culture, your language, or your religion. So, for example, we pioneered and tested. We set up a private firefighting unit in Bloemfontein last year, and it's been a major success. And we're definitely going to be expanding that. Also, with private waste removal, we're going to be accelerating our operations there. Water points to help people during a water crisis. All of these things. Increasing our training and equipment for our neighborhood watchers, increased focus on safety, particularly farm and rural safety. Hello to Freighter Watcher, nice to see you. I'm just discussing now the implications of 2025 I think you just saw a little tail here behind me. Where is he now? Hey, come here. I just want to show you a little kitten. All right. I'm not going to let him sit here. He can do what he wants. But if you hear little sounds in the background, it's because of him. All right. I see more people trickling in. Good evening, good evening. Yeah, Boerkere opleiding, absolutely. You comment on Afrikaans and gaming together. I'm not very much of a gamer. I play some Age of Empires now and again. But it's just casually. I don't really think it would add to. I don't think I would be able to focus on playing a game and also thinking about these types of matters at the same time. It's just not how my brain works. Mark says, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Absolutely. Violence is life, says good afternoon. Oh no, everyone's fixated on the little kitten and not on what's being discussed. Yeah. Hey, stop making noise. No, everyone's just commenting on the little kitten. All right. Then also, and that's why I think one of the positive things that comes out of the government of national unity, even though, as you all will know, I'm by far not a preacher that government of national unity is going to save South Africa and that's a new dawn, not by a long shot. But it does give us a little bit of stability, does buy us some time. And that's what the Solidarity Movement and AfriForum need at the moment. We're building as fast as we can, and we're building state-proof solutions for the future. We're testing many new innovative ideas in regards to state-proofing our communities. A lot of them are very successful, but these things take time. So anything we can do to buy us some time. Another example would be the schools that we're building, the university that we're building. We're building a 3.2 billion rand campus for academia and Afrikaans University starting this year. We already bought the land. Construction starts this year. It's not going to be an EFF school. That's a promise that never happens. When the Solidarity Movement says we're doing something, we do it. Also building a Gymnasium Pretoria, our private Afrikaans school. That's also starting construction soon. That's our answer to make sure that we're building a future for Afrikaans in South Africa, Afrikaans education. So yeah, we are building as fast as we can, and anything that can buy us some time in regards to the collapse that's happening around us, that's a good thing. Then also, yeah, because at the same time, on that note of the GNU, we're running on good vibes for the past few months. The South African economy and South African politics, everything is like, it's just, it's all about the vibes, the harmony. We have to protect the harmony, unity at all costs. Well, those good vibes are going to eventually fade, and the harmony is going to fade as well. The honeymoon is going to end. When? I'm not going to make a prediction. It's already difficult. It's difficult to make predictions, particularly about the future. And so yeah, when it comes to the GNU, the good vibes will fade. But we use this little bit of a calming period. It's, I wouldn't call it summer, but it's almost like that. Well, make hay while the sun shines, build while there's a little bit of a respite. You don't want to be building during chaos in the storm. And that leads me to my next point. We had a very interesting guest at AfriForum recently this week. Tier de Meester came to visit us. He's a Bitcoin investor and also a parallel institutions and solutions aficionado from America. And he took an interest. He discovered Afrikaners and Urania and AfriForum, the Solidarity Movement, wanted to come see for himself. So he spent some time in Urania. And then this week he came to visit Pretoria. I gave him a tour of AfriForum headquarters, and also of I also gave him a tour of the Voortrekker Monument, and he really enjoyed it. And he says that the Afrikaners are inspiring people like him and many people that he knows. And he also says that South Africa and Afrikaners both are ahead of the curve for two different reasons. South Africa is ahead of the curve in regards to deterioration of state capacity, something that's starting to happen in many Western countries and in Europe and in America. And Afrikaners are ahead of the curve in regards to finding solutions to the South Africanization, to the problems that are plaguing South Africa. So I'm very glad. Every week we learn of new friends of the Afrikaners, and you never know who's listening. You never know who's watching. What we're doing here, and that's very encouraging. Let's see here what the comment section is saying before I move on. Nike Creer says, "Can AI help the Afrikaans language?" I don't know. I'm not a big AI hype guy. I don't know. I don't really have an answer for you there. I think AI is just making people more stupid and lazy. So I personally am not too optimistic about its positive effects. Ruan D says Afrikaans is one of the most developed academic languages and was used extensively in training LLMS, large language models. Most developed academic languages. Fascinating. Stefani says, I see Bitcoin conference, Adam's Roots in Cape Town. Happy to pay an annual sub in Bitcoin, not monthly via bank. Yeah, Adam's Roots is going to be a speaker at Adopt Bitcoin, a conference in Cape Town at the end of this month. Slippery Pickles says, Adam's thoughts on legislation trying to exclude non-BEE farmers from foreign markets. Well, that's a bit of an old story. It's not new. You can send me an email and I'll give you some of the latest information there. A lot has happened. I think it will kind of derail the conversation if I go too deep into that now. So you can send me an email. My email is on my YouTube channel, adams.vansale@afriforum.co.za. Yeah, Rwandi says competence crisis, Owens. Yeah, that's where we are. Competence crisis in South Africa, but also in the Western world. Much worse in South Africa than in other Western countries. All right. Yeah, so that's the thing, is that it's very encouraging seeing all these new friends of the Afrikaners, like Tier, that visited this week as well. Then also this year, my New Year's resolution, one of them, or my project 2025, is to read all the books that I own that are written by my friends. I already read one, Oren McIntyre's book, Total State, fantastic book, highly recommend. Currently writing a review of the book, that should be out soon. I'm also going to read Jeremy Cole's book. Also, I will also be reading Professor Koos Malan's "There's No Supreme Constitution." Jeremy Cole's book is The Unprotected Class. That's its title. And then I'll also be reading Chris Waldberger's book. I think it's called Rage and Love. It's a fictional work. I myself am also working on a book. I announced that on X a while back. It's going to still be a while. I'm writing it in my free time, which I don't have a lot of, but it's coming along, and it will be about particularly the solidarity movement, Afrikaners, and the wider Western world, and being an outpost of Western civilization here at the southern tip of Africa. So yeah, that's some of the things that are occupying my mind for 2025. I'm looking forward to the year. I think it's going to be a fantastic, exciting year. Challenging, but a lot of opportunities to grab. And then also, when it comes to particularly this channel, I will be uploading or doing live streams now again regularly. Already have many guests that I plan to invite on, and there will be a new video on the channel as well, either by the end of the week or early next week. It's an interview I did this morning at 5 a.m. on SAFM, and we were debating the new racially discriminatory legislation or regulations that the government or South African government is escalating within the legal sector. So that's I think the interview went very well, and I'm excited to share it with you. Ruandi sê ek's nie bang nie. Okay, dapper meis. Yeah, Ruan, we shouldn't be scared. We should be going into the future, facing the problems and challenges that we face with this year with courage and with in Afrikaans, you'd say moed. I don't know exactly what it would be in English. No, my translator function in my head is not working properly. Maybe that can be replaced with AI in the future to do. But then you see, when you start using AI to do something that your brain should be doing, just a little bit slow maybe, and sometimes with some hiccups, then eventually your brain just becomes incapable of doing that activity. I've seen it happen with people and calculators where I see, no jokes, people use a calculator to add like 5 and 7, and they go on their calculator and they put in 5 plus 7 on their phone. It's yeah, that's going to happen on a much larger scale with AI, because now AI is not just like here's a little sum that it does for you. It can write emails for you. It can write responses to fights that you're having over WhatsApp with a friend or a loved one. It can pretty much do everything, subpar in quality, but still people are going to use and abuse AI to do everything they should be able to do themselves, making themselves dull and their brains dull and atrophying their skills. It's like your brain's like a muscle. I'm not a biologist or an expert, but I mean that's how it works. The parts of your brain just atrophy if you don't use them, and that's what happens. For example, when you give people a calculator and they use it for plus 5, what's 5 plus 6, what's 8 plus 9, and soon they start using it. Well, you first start using it for bigger sums, and then smaller and smaller and smaller. And the same is going to happen with AI, just on a much larger scale. You're going to get to a point where a lot of people are going to be unable to resolve conflict, unable to write a proper email, unable to write a CV, unable to summarize a book, unable to read with comprehension, because all of these things are going to be outsourced to AI. But anyway, I don't want to end on that note. AI is a fascinating topic. I'm not an expert by any means. Maybe I'll do a stream of consciousness episode on AI later this year, or maybe I'll invite some guests to talk about AI, because I think that's what people are going to be talking about a lot this year as well. I don't see it as this big uh, massive positive revolution. I think it's going to have a lot of negative that comes with it, but that'll be a conversation or a topic for another day. So, just in conclusion and in summary, 2025, I think, is going to be a year characterized particularly by adapt or die. And that will be applicable to organizations, political movements, ideologies, ideas, and the ideas and the movements and the organizations and the individuals that rise will be those who are able to produce the goods, real world outcomes, not just political rhetoric, not just online content, not just posting, people that are able to influence reality. The kitten is giving me an indication that I should stop now. He's acting as an agent for my wife. And the people that are able to produce the goods, the people that are able to influence reality, the people that are able to produce outcomes, those people will be those that rise to leadership positions and who rise to prominence, and who will be the organizations and individuals that make it through this paradigm shift to the other side, and they will inherit the future. Those who still just produce empty rhetoric and whose ideas only work on paper or in the online space, but not in reality, those people are and their ideas will fade out of the public consciousness. Well, not out of the public consciousness, but they will fade into a little bit more obscure of a position. They will lose their prestigious position that they might have held for a long time. Yeah, in this light, my little laptop camera is not is not too focused, but that's fine. This is not like some massive TV production. It's just my hobby where I speak share some ideas and insights, and if that's interesting to people, that's nice. And I enjoy that. Thank you very much for everyone that tuned in. Thank you for your questions and your comments. I hope you all have a fantastic 2025, and I hope you all are agile, adaptive, and wakker this year. I hope that you conquer the challenges that will come your way as an individual, and for your family, and for your organization or whatever movements you are part of. And yeah, I'll see you next week for another episode of Stream of Consciousness. And if you like these types of conversations and these streams and this content on this channel, you can see the little cat tail there in the background. He's getting very impatient now. Then you can subscribe, and if you're watching and it's no longer live, you can leave a comment as well, and still share your thoughts and insights and questions. I read all of the comments and I really appreciate them. And thank you to everyone that shares these streams and all my content on this channel as well, and who follows me on social media. I appreciate it, and it's heartening to know that there are people out there that I can give some insights to and expose to some ideas or angles that they might not have considered. That's very nice, and I appreciate it. That's what makes this hobby worthwhile, and that's why I'll keep producing content, even if just a handful of people watch. It's not about the views. It's not about the amount of money. I mean, this channel is not even monetized. Maybe I'll monetize it somewhere in the future if you guys really want to do super chats. It's not high on my priority list. Um, but yeah, so thank you very much for everyone that tuned in. I'll see you guys on the next episode, and I'm just going to give some last comments, some love before we say goodbye. Cat wants to cross the Rubicon. Oh well, when you're young, you want to always be crossing the Rubicon, being a influential figure and whatever. Pedro says, "Wakker en gezond, dankie, Ernst." No, I'm not gonna anger the little kitten. Ruan sê Safia doet nie verkeerd. Baie dankie. Waardeer dit. Dankie. Thank you. And Labra sê dankie Roykat. Veilig bly almal. All right. I think that about wraps it up. All right. Cheers, guys. Have a good one, and God bless, and good luck this year. Do something positive, build, plant, create. Think for yourself, think ahead, keep heart, keep the faith, and stay courageous. Cheers.